Good evening, everyone. System Chalk here with the 33rd episode of Cultist Simulator, the Dancer DLC, playing as Margaret Zell. Now, I wanted to get a quick word in about programming in that, just because there's something that I had been planning on for the playthroughs, and then things haven't turned out. Actually, what I'd like to say before any of this is thank you for the birthday wishes and just sort of a nice batch of positive comments that came in. They're actually rather timely because there are some videos that I have that don't generate that kind of positive response, and they're leaving me feeling a bit low. So I don't mean to try and turn these videos into video blogs, but they helped, and certainly a number of you helped make the birthday quite a bit nicer as well. So thank you for that. Now, as far as the format goes, I think some of you may have noticed over the past few videos I've been trying to do a little bit more of discussion in terms of the lore, and one of the ways that I've tried to explore that would be to say, okay, I've got some fragments, here are some ideas that I'm working with, let's make a best guess, and then we'll keep these sorts of things in mind as we move forward and see if we can refine it through later experience. And this is actually very consistent with the way that I played Cultist Simulator at the start, and somewhat play it to this day, although the majority of my play time is spent on stream, which means that I'm going to be focused a little bit more on the broadcast as opposed to sort of having my notebook and writing out some of the lore in that. And one of the things is that I don't have, sort of immediate recall of a lot of the lore for Cultist Simulator, and one of the intentions behind that was to sort of approach it the way that I would approach any other problem, which is that you acknowledge that some of your guesses are not necessarily going to be right, but what you do is you at least sort of plant a flag or you plant a marker, and then you let experience sort of guide you towards the correct answer. And in some cases I made errors that, just after the video I sort of noticed were wrong, and then some other cases where they were sort of genuine mistakes. I didn't understand at the time what what the reference might have been. And it was a way that I kind of tried to appeal to the people who talked about how much they like the lore and some of the discussion of it. Now, one unfortunate side effect of this has been that when I go down these paths, they seem to generate more comments which are basically just outright correcting it, or sort of, actually it's this. And the big difficulty I have with that is I don't really think that's in the spirit of what I'm trying to do with that approach. So when you are playing Cultist Simulator and you're trying to wrestle with it, right? We've sort of said this through a few different playthroughs. You're given this glimpse into a larger world, and this game is sort of famous for being pretty difficult at the start and hard to understand. And again, it's very much reflecting the fact that in the real world there is no, cults for dummies, and that if you're going to gain an understanding of this special world, you're in essentially the same place as your character. You've been given a glimpse, there's something there, and you need to sort of wrestle with the rest of the material yourself. And what's true is that you will have different reference points which are provided inside the game, and you'll have these different glimpses, but ultimately it's up to you to make those kinds of connections. And so it's very different from my individual experience to make a guess and then sort of have that corrective mechanism where I'm now paying attention for this particular thing and letting the game sort of refine the guesses as they go through. My own experience of this game, because I don't tend to do a lot of forums or wikis or anything like that, is not to have that guess and then have an immediate feedback mechanism which says, no, you're wrong, it's this thing. And so in this case, it's a case where sort of both the spirit of the exercise is sort of being lost, I think. And one of the drawbacks is that this has been true pretty much whenever I've been streaming, and I've been doing this for a few years, although not, Cultist Simulator certainly brought quite a bit more attention to me. But I also tend to react quite negatively to that. It's one of these things that does lead me to become quite discouraged when playing certain games. And one of the things that is very true about Cultist Simulator is that it's actually been a source of a lot of positive comments and something that I enjoy quite a bit. So I'm probably going to be pulling back a little bit on this approach. And the reason why I wanted to take the time to talk about it is because right now I only have one half of the equation, which is sort of the the very raw and oftentimes sort of misleading approach towards exploring some of the references. I think maybe an example here would be the burrowing secret keeper. I think I'd made something of a reference to as the vagabond, and then when you read subsequent entries, I think there's more evidence that the vagabond is something else, and I don't think actually you'd have a reference to burrowing with the vagabond. But again, the intention would be over time we sort of refine our understanding. But again, like I said, I don't want to spend too much time because I know on the Monday episode there's usually a lot of sort of housekeeping and it keeps me from going through the game. But the one drawback about introducing this and then finding it not working, and also maybe I just need to take a second here and say is that it's unfortunately the case that I think there are a lot of people who do like this approach. And it's, I kind of need to acknowledge I may be disappointing them. But it's also just one of these cases where, if it's a comment that puts me into a spot where I'm feeling discouraged about the videos, I got to deal with that. And I'm largely going to respond to what the perception seems to be, which is that I'm not successfully bringing across the approach that I want to, and I need to sort of reevaluate how I'm doing it. So again, because there's the first half of the equation, which is the really rough form where you're going to try and work with it. And again, I like to give a lot of math analogies. Sometimes you can sit down and you can try an approach to a problem and you get stuck. You wind up in a corner, but maybe by approaching it, you will find something interesting about the problem that you didn't notice before, or maybe it's just a question of walking away and you can actually find a little bit of a spin on your new approach. Sometimes just trying is better than anything. And one of the things I like to do is communicate a thought process as I go through the game. And it has been a very long time since I've actually talked about the lore in the game. But like I said, this doesn't seem to be working the way that I wanted it. And so the problem is that I've introduced the ineffective side, or the rougher side, which isn't necessarily going to lead to any deep insights into the game. But if I'm going to be doing this sort of thing less, it's much more likely that this video series is not going to have the second half, which is sort of the refining. And if I can find a way to sort of fold it in such a way that, it works well. If I can find a way to sort of make it work, I'll try to. It doesn't mean I'm going to just completely close it off forever. But the problem is that, well, I think there's value, again, if you want to learn something, there's value in getting the information where you can, but if my aim here is to try and sort of communicate sort of patterns of thought and how you can sort of work through a problem yourself, and especially if the backseating basically, winds up discouraging me or otherwise making it not a fun path to go through. I just think in the end it's not going to serve the long-term benefits of the broadcast. So one thing I might try and do later on is maybe a series of videos which is not about playing the games, but maybe I'll just sort of open up a bit of a mind map and sort of show, take some time specifically with the cards and just make it all about sort of piecing apart the lore, and that might be another way that I approach it. But if you do feel that it's going the other way, that I'm talking about the lore a little bit too less and I'm overcorrecting on that side, naturally let me know and I'll try and balance it out. But unfortunately, sometimes even if it's a vocal minority, it can sometimes spoil things for people. So as always, I'm trying to navigate the waters in a way that makes sure I keep doing videos. So we've spent about 10 minutes on this. I apologize, but I did just want to make sure. I guess the biggest thing I wanted to do is that because a particular path I'm going down might be sort of snipped short, I didn't want to sort of have this, but at the end of it being, people wondering sort of what happened to that, or sort of have the rough stuff sort of become the final word on certain parts of the lore. Now, we got a lot of stuff that we need to get through in terms of this playthrough. So we've got damning evidence on the table right now. We don't have a season of suspicion, but that can come up at any point. And, really, I need to be thinking about how I can get a favor from authority as a sort of you know, an intermediate protection. And then we need to really think about how we're going to destroy this evidence. So that could be through something like a Callagene, that could be through something like a moth follower. There are a number of different ways that I can approach this. So it does look like we're already bringing in the Callagene in 27 seconds. So I think we'll leave that be. Now, I think we were also working on getting some skin twisters. So let me just see where we're at. So Porter currently is not, neither is Sylvia. Okay. But if I recall correctly, we should be able to move some people up. So let's, yeah, Elizabeth's already a skin twister. Yeah, so I guess the question is, am I willing to leave 27 seconds with that damning evidence, or do we? Yeah, I think we'll keep it there. And I think I had said that I have other options with the wary detective if I do run into trouble. I would like to repair the mirror, but again, that's going to take longer than 30 seconds. So we do want to make sure that the talk verb is available and dealt with as soon as I can. And we currently don't have any reputation to worry about. Oh, the one thing I can do, though, is turn in the commission for Dr. Adim, so let's get that done. I have what the doctor requested. All right, let's carry on. Now, I'm reading sentimental literature. I'm curious what I thought I was going to accomplish with that. I received the currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. So we got erudition and mystique for this. If I wanted, I could try and send a heart follower off to deal with the reputation that we just got. But again, it takes longer than what I have available before the Callagene becomes available. I think we may run into trouble with the gate. Nope, we should be fine with the gaiety, actually. We're skilled in overcoming warded ways. We'll probably penetrate this warded door. Did we put... I don't think we have Enid in the... There we go. We bear a great power of opening. Will almost certainly shatter this warded door. Not all of the Forge's children are bright. Its offcuts and its bastards gather in the bounds like hammerscale in the cracks of a smithy floor. Here comes one now. All right, I'm not going to be able to remember the order that I had everyone in, but we'll do our best. All right, so there's a subtle flaw. I don't think that's really going to help us that much, but we can keep it around. And there's the Callagene. All right. So we're going to talk with the Callagene about the evidence when the time comes, but let's get the contract of the gaiety. And it turns out, actually, if the summoning struggled against our efforts, we probably would have had trouble at the gaiety. So it's an important lesson to remember that basically anytime I want to summon something, I do think I put my job at risk. Okay. Not everything from the Mansis can speak, but everything can understand mortal speech, even once it has passed the white door. I should read the description of the Callagene. At the corners of the forge, in the bounds of the Mansis, the glory's fire meets baser elements. Here is a cunning vapor to infect your enemy's dreams. And it's been a while since I've kind of gone over the different aspects, so this may be helpful. Level 8 moth. So this is definitely the reason why we like using it for evidence destruction. Again, my followers are more effective, but in this case, Callagenes are more disposable. It is a follower. It is summoned. This one is not from here. It has 8 forge, so it's actually also rather helpful for things like warded doors. And finally, it is a deceiver. If this breaks free, it may try to drive you or your followers to insanity. And with 8, it's a pretty potent deceiver. In any case, let's try and get rid of the damning evidence. So that'll be over a minute, and if it doesn't turn out, we still have Elizabeth to work as sort of a secondary agent. At some point, I would like to try and make a winter painting, because we do have the Grey Dawn oil, and just generally, it's nice to have high quality items. Although, as I just saw, the manacles are sort of sufficient for for the power that the painting would give me. I think we'll go back to the Lodge of the Sage Knight. We can potentially get favor from authority from that. And Forgotten Chronicle. Last night, I visited the Lodge of the Sage Knight. My hostess manifested as an elegant woman with fashionably short hair and dark glasses. No, she admits, I don't need them any more than I need eyes. Allow me my sentimentalities. But you've come for knowledge, I expect. Here's a story I heard in my Kerisham days. You're welcome to it. Only remember me if you come to make the pilgrimage. So we're almost certainly overweight on Forgotten Chronicles, but this is, I've talked about this before, we do have the option of upgrading them once we've worked through, worked through what we already have. Sorry, I said work through what we already have. Once we work through the the items that I sorry, I'm really failing to to make the point. What I'm trying to say is when we work through the locations that we need, I will be able to use the surplus to upgrade and get the next set of locations, because it has been a while since we got the Stagdoor Riddle and we have not yet solved it. Okay. Now, I think I'm short on... So this is for Madame Bichet, but we should be able to get a... commission from Count Jannings, and I think I dropped the ball on that. We still are sort of behind as far as the favor from authority and the evidence are concerned. The evidence has not yet been destroyed, so we are going to try and get a favor from authority just in case. And we've got a Season of Ambitions coming up, so we're going to need the restlessness... we're going to need a way to get rid of restlessness more than anything in the immediate term. Moth finds light in the dark, and so do I. I pass the time, I have been inclined to tears, and afterwards inclined to laughter. Meanwhile, the world continues. So, I'm trying to think. I did go for a glimmering for some reason, and I'm trying to remember if it was to bring up a secret history, or if I was going to try and move up the knock. I suspect it was probably to upgrade the Forgotten Chronicles, so let's get that started. History is less certain than we are taught. I can learn from the study of its blurred edges. All doors must open as all lives must end. This door has found its end here today. So moving up, we need to worry about the Fifth Eye Curse, and that's a heart or a winter. So in this case, probably adding Clovette or Dorothy or Leo will be sufficient for getting past the trouble. And looks like we didn't have any opportunities at the Gaiety for a fancier performance, so we'll just collect our pay and move on. Now, as always, it's one of these cases where I sort of want to wonder, is now a good time for me to do this winter painting? Do I have other opportunities available to me? And again, I don't necessarily need to, because the manacles get me the same, kind of the equivalent of the painting, but I don't know, it's just sort of nice to have lots of paintings kicking around. It's a little bit nice to have all the lore sitting down as well. So, what are we gonna say? I do wind up generating a little more notoriety than I necessarily need, but... There are a couple of risks doing this, I think, but let's give this a shot. So you never know, this might be a living. Those who know will understand, as will the Suppression Bureau. So we'll have winter aspect to deal with. We'll probably get a dread for our trouble. We're going to get notoriety as a result of this action as well. So overall, I'm putting myself in something of a dangerous position, but I'm reasonably convinced that we're going to be able to deal with the consequences of this painting. It's one of the reasons why I want to paint it now, because I'm in a position to be able to address some of those. Our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I can add funds now, or I could send another follower. So in this case, we had to do that. Otherwise, the expedition would have failed. But what I am going to want to do is, I am going to want to, sorry, how do I put it? I am going to want to add the heart follower before too long. Now, this restlessness is probably going to turn into dread. I await word from tampering with records. I could spend money on better paints, or perhaps I could find more exotic pigments. My minion has not returned. They have failed, and their blundering may have attracted attention. Alright, so that is always a risk, and that is a worry, so we're now going to send Yzabet in. Significant conversations in a smoky meeting room. What do I need from my follower? My scheme will most likely succeed. There is always a chance that something will go awry. So the Season of Ardors is nice because we're going to have a contentment that we can use to get rid of the dread that will come from the painting. We'll go back to the Lodge of the Sage Knight. A subtle fracture. So if I want to try and summon another Callagine, I have the option, but we are going to need to deal with the Gaiety first. Last night, in the great pavilion above the grey sprawl of the Bounds, a woman who once called herself Teresa Gallagher sat on gilt-fringed cushions and offered me a horn cup of dream wine. The wine is imaginary, she explained, but the cup is not. To navigate the Mansis, one must understand the distinction. Perhaps one day you'll join me on the pilgrimage, or I'll join you. So here, let us share a secret. And her breath tickled my ear. We are pretty much always going back to the White Door. It's the only option that I kind of have for the dream slot right now, but it's also it's nice to have the insurance policy of the favor from authority. Even if there's the small chance that I generate the fascination, it's still I think it's still kind of worth it to make an effort. All right, this is a puzzle with missing pieces. I might find those pieces in the odd corners of scholarship. In this case, we need an erudition, so we'll take the one that's about to expire. Oop, and I almost forgot. So we carry enough heart aspect to quell the curse. Probably. Yeah, Dorothy. Call upon the Ringu who is renewed. We are strong enough in heart to be almost entirely secure against the curse. So Dr. Adim and Count Jannings are available once we destroy the evidence. I made something unique, something extraordinary, something I will never dare to exhibit publicly. Okay, so this is a bit of an odd spot to be in. I may actually have enough to be able to get a painting done, but I think I'm willing to get hit by the restlessness right now, so there's no real good way to do this, so I'm just gonna... I could collect everything, which would be, it kind of put everything back in its place, but the drawback is I wouldn't actually see all of the side effects. So, contentment, which is good. 3 glimmering, I wasn't expecting that. An icy atmosphere. So I might have a use for that. We do have a dread, so that I'm going to need to combine with the contentment. There's an extra notoriety. I think we should have 2 of those. And finally, the wolf divided. Caput Garret Lepinium. The sun was divided, and this is its wound. Okay, so here are a few considerations that I would have in terms of what I'm running into. We've got a restlessness, which is expiring in 12.3 seconds. We've got a dread on the table already, and we have 13 seconds away from generating another restlessness. If I do the contract at the Gaiety, this is going to allow me to use a restlessness or a passion to, or a health, to improve the dance. That isn't always guaranteed. There's a possibility that that event doesn't trigger, but that's not going to happen within 12 seconds. So if I let this tick by, it means that it's going to turn into dread, and I have 2 dread on the table to deal with. Now, the one way I could guarantee that I get rid of the restlessness would be to use painting again. Now, I would want to use my reputation to basically be able to get get a return for it. I mean, I don't have to, but I think it's a good idea because I don't have the passion that I can employ. That will help get rid of the restlessness, but it does potentially put the contract at the Gaiety at risk. So essentially I'm 2 seconds off, so I think you actually can do this in under a minute. But it is going to be sort of testing the edges of the Contract of the Gaiety, and I do have 2 influences which I might like to use as a sort of an input into other activities. So essentially I've talked about this on several occasions, but here's another. I think sometimes one thing that's nice about Cultist Simulator is that you can think about some different ways that you can frame your problems and you can frame your decisions in the game. So in this case, we sort of think a little bit about risk management. So if I just sit down and let all of this happen, if I were to take my hands off the board and I don't do anything, what can potentially happen? Well, the icy atmosphere will eventually, take my hand off the keyboard and the mouse, but an icy atmosphere is going to decay into dread. Restlessness will decay into dread. The restlessness that generates from the restlessness from not having done the second change will turn into dread. And then the contentment, if there is... So the contentment's only going to last a minute, but if there is a season of despair, the contentment will be gone within 60 seconds. Or it'll annihilate one of the dreads. So again, if we count it out, and I take no interventions on the game, the best we could hope for would be that there is 1, 2, 3, 4 dread on the board, minus the 1 contentment, and then the worst case would be that the contentment expires before an event happens that would automatically pick it up, and we wind up with 4 dread on the board with a season of despair coming up. So the dread is potentially a game ender. Now, one of the ways that I can minimize the dread, of course, would be to do that painting, take the connect with the dread here. Icy atmosphere might go away when I am sort of forced to use the Contract at the Gaiety again, but certainly it's a much better way for me to manage the problems. The other challenge, of course, is the damning evidence with the notoriety, but we already have the damning evidence being worked on with a high-level moth follower. We're just going to have to... There's nothing else that we can do to sort of improve our reputation right now. So it might seem a little funny, but I'm actually going to be using the Contract at the Gaiety right now instead of the painting, even though this is going to generate a dread at a time where it's particularly risky for me. The reason I'm doing so is that I can also potentially mitigate some of these side effects by doing summons, and I'm not going to be able to do a summon if I'm having trouble with the Contract at the Gaiety. So we'll start here. We're gonna get hit by the dread from this restlessness, but my hope is that we will at least be able to take this restlessness when we're asked to do the special performance, or to sort of commit ourselves more fully, and then essentially what I'll do is deal with the dread that's on the board through the traditional means. So I realize that was a really long way of putting it, but it's basically just a slightly different way of looking at the problem. Some of you may like watching me when I play games like Industries of Titan, and it's a benefit as well as a drawback in some cases, where in those games I sort of take this very long view. So essentially I'll look at a resource and I will treat it as if it has, I'm not weighing it against its immediate uses. But I'm weighing it against what I could refine it into if I was given an infinite amount of time. And so that's sort of just recognizing the opportunity cost of consuming a resource early. And so in the case of Cultist Simulator, the way that manifests itself is to just sort of say, okay, so if I do not intervene, what's the consequence? And what I'm doing here is I'm taking an action that puts me in a situation which could end the game. But of course, the assumption that I'm not going to touch anything on the board is not a good one. But it is just noting that I'm using this work verb in the knowledge that I am sort of incurring a debt that needs to be paid later in the form of getting rid of the dread. And of course, if the passage of time... Actually, sorry, I should have said the Season of Ardors would give... Well, actually, I guess there's no way that you could have 2 contentment on the board and have them automatically trigger for a Season of Despair, because they only last for a minute. In any case, it doesn't matter. But yeah, we've got a few things. I'm going to have to give up some work in the dream slot, which will potentially have consequences if we aren't able to deal with the damning evidence. But I'm sort of the more traditional way that I would put it would be that because I already have somebody working on the damning evidence and I'm feeling reasonably confident that it will be destroyed. Oh, sorry, that's the talk verb. Well, okay, the talk verb is occupied with the evidence, but in the end, the pressure to use the dream slot through the white door is not as high because I've been using that for favor of from authority more than the others. I think I spent way too much time talking about that for something that was probably clear to most people at the very start. All right, our power is stronger than the power that was here. The curse won't touch us. There it is. Is that it? You have resolved a knowledge challenge. The more I think about it, the less likely I think it is that I'm going to be able to make the most of these influences. I'm no further along my path of change. In the movements of the secret forms, I must find my lesson. I await word. Okay, so Season of Sickness coming up. A minion has returned. The evidence has been destroyed. I am a little safer. So, good news there. I think it's time that we deal with our reputation now, so we're going to send Clovette out. Oh, sorry. No, we're not. We're going to talk to Dr. Adim and Dr. Jannings or Count Jannings for some commissions. So the doctor would like some help with his research. And we'll get some goodies in just a little bit. I don't want restlessness. Let's go to the Lodge of the Sage Knight. Now, this is not actually a bad thing that we got the fascination. Last night, in the billowing blue of the Lodge of the Sage Knight, I sat on velvet cushions and watched two dead contend with shining swords. They came with the place, said the woman who rules here now, the one who once called herself Gallagher. I was not the Sage Knight, if that's what you're wondering. He went higher in the Mansis long before I came here. My attention has drifted. The swords sparkle like falling water. The dead move like dancers. So, this is less of a benefit than it used to be, because of course we've talked about before how Fleeting Reminiscence now will get rid of Fascination, and so the benefit of using Dread to annihilate Fascination isn't quite what it used to be. But this is actually not a bad one to get when you have a lot of Dread, because Fascination lasts longer than Contentment, and so it's something that is a better hedge against Dread. So, again, this is going into a little more detail than I would normally have to, but just for the benefit of those who might be looking for a few little tips just to try and angle things a little bit more in your favor. I have got multiple Dread cards on the table, and I have a few different opportunities to cancel them, right? So I've got a Fascination, I've got a Contentment, I've got two cards to sort of annihilate each other, and then we just got a new Contentment. So the question might be, what order do you want to do things in? Well, first of all, the Contentment that lasts 20 seconds, you're probably going to want to use that right away. But then it invites the question, well, which Dread do you want to get rid of first? And traditionally what I'll do, there's only a difference of about 12 seconds between these, but I would take the 20-second Contentment to get rid of the 152-second Dread, because this is this will be harmful to me for a longer period of time. So if there's something that uses the Dream slot, which is much more important, I'm going to want to have the one that is closer to expiring on its own. Now, again, I think the likelihood is that this Contentment is going to go away before it's useful, so in this case, we'd next move to the Fascination in this Dread. Otherwise, we would use the Contentment for this other Dread, and if the Icy Atmosphere or the Restlessness become Dread, then we'll deal with them as they come up. But in likelihood, this Restlessness will be dealt with in the work slot, and then the Contentment will go away, but we'll just get rid of the Dread with the Fascination, and then we're in the clear. And it won't be a moment too soon, because we will also need the Dream slot for health, and we currently do not have Vitality from A Course of the Heart, so that's going to be something else that I want to try and get some work on. But let's actually implement the plan. So we've got dread here. Clear my mind. I remember that I was different, but I can't yet remember how. I remember that I was different before. Alright, we need a glimmering, so this is the one that's expiring sooner. Alright, so unfortunately we didn't have an opportunity to spike the restlessness. So in this case we are going to do a painting, and I'm going to get a little clever about it. So we're going to... Oh wait, nope, sorry, I need to use the restlessness. So we'll grab all of our reputation. Oops. That's going to have some consequences in terms of getting rid of the reputation, but we don't have the damning evidence, so we can afford a little more scrutiny than we used to. Now, I was going to try... When I said I was going to get clever, I was thinking that I would take this contentment and I would extend its life, but that defeats the purpose of using a restlessness. So one of the reasons I want to do a painting is that it may generate me a new contentment with which I can get rid of the dread. And we do now need to worry about the icy atmosphere decaying, because our option of summoning something using the icy atmosphere has kind of gone. And Dr. Redeem would like another lantern commission. This one a substantial one. And Count Jannings would like... The Good Count's fraternity in Europe is seeking particular research. And he would like a heart commission. So I might want to do the heart commission earlier, because heart is something that can generate a course of the heart, and that will get me the vitality I need to cure my affliction. Alright, let's think about our talk verb now. So I could try and work on my reputation, which is currently the reputation cards are being occupied, but they'll be free in time for my they'll be free in time for when they're needed. I could also follow through on that wish to improve to repair the mirror. I think using a heart follower right now has more benefits. Oops. I think it has a few more benefits than my alternatives, so we are going to discuss occult business with followers, significant conversations in a smoky meeting room. What do I need from my follower? And where's the Wildwood Club? Here we go. Not everyone is sympathetic to our aims, but if we have problems with our reputation, our disciple can probably smooth them over. The last room. Nothing remains to bar our way. Search the cellar first, then the upper rooms. We won't want to be trapped. I could spend money on better paints, or perhaps I could find more exotic pigments. I think spending money on paints makes sense when I've got... It'd be better if I had 4 notoriety, but I think we can still work with this. This is work to be proud of. With enough publicity, it will sell. Alright, and we've got another season, or we've got another potential restlessness, but we should have completed the sending by the time that we're done, so. My recent work has accrued modest fame. My paintings have reviewed well. Now this probably means that we've generated, yep, there's some mystique that I'm going to need to deal with. Alright, 3, this is definitely going to get in the way if I get some new lore. Alright, so we also got some staleness off of that, which is less desirable. So, remembering that we're going to have to deal with an affliction, or disease, or otherwise try and heal ourselves, I am going to try and generate some vitality for me, or for myself. So, the stage awaits, hot and clean and bare and bright. If I move the moves and step the steps and do what is required, they'll pay me. And so again, we're... I do want to deal with the staleness at some point, but it's not the best... I don't think it's the best thing for me to ignore my health. And again, we're doing fine as far as money's concerned, so we can always pay for the medicine if we need. Sun moves, the wind still walks, my journals are the labyrinth clue. So we still don't need to use the dream slot for healing yet, so we are going to get rid of the dread, remembering that the chilly atmosphere will be another dread that we need to deal with, but I don't want to wait 20 seconds for it. Doors of vision swing wide, a little darkness will mellow my light, even dread has its uses. Actually, it did just occur to me there may be some advantage. So if I wait... So we wait 52 seconds, and we know for a fact that there won't be a season of despair come up in 52 seconds. So that means that there will be 27 seconds left on the dread, which means this can't hurt me. So actually, it does make a little more sense for me to just wait for the chilly atmosphere to decay. What I will do, though, is I'm going to take a trip through the white door, and I'm going to... So, one, it's another trigger of health, so that might give us a Course of the Heart, but it just allows me to do something in the meantime. So now I can approach the white door through the bounds. Now I can press my fingers to it, feel its chill, watch it swing open. As it opens, my mouth closes, tightens, heals over like a lost deformity. Around and about me is the cobalt light of the Mansis. Sorry, I know I'm getting close. I'm already over time, but I did want to finish the Kerisham job. So on the topmost floor is an altar to the sun divided, which could be one of many hours. Sweep the items there displayed into a carpet bag, and let's make haste into the back streets. So we already know at least some of what we're getting. So we've got bitter black salts, rose pearl dust, and piebald pigments. Now, these aren't normally aspects that I would associate with the divided sun. I can see lantern, I can see winter, but the tricky part with Kerisham is that so there is definitely a set of things that there's definitely a set of things that get sort of pulled from a deck, and so you can still say that these are associated with Kerisham and specifically what you find inside of Kerisham, but I don't know if there's any significance that I would draw from the contents of what I find here, compared to, let's say, other locations where there's definitely a much tighter connection. All right, the name of the mother, name of the moon. I don't think I know how to pronounce this. Integument, surrendered. In a dry attic above the grey roofs of Kerisham, in view of the grey sea, in the dreams of the murderer child, old Mother Anguish once met with Ahad, her son. The murderer's child's bones still lie there. Now my serpent self couples with what remains so fiercely that its outer self comes free. So as a reminder, this did happen over a few different episodes. So we had ascending. We had, as it says, our serpent self, which came after doing a dance at the Ecdysis Club. And so we've kind of implemented the final stage of that little side journey, and we've taken our next step, let's say. So good work, Dorothy. Good work, Enid. Good work, Neville. Good work, Sylvia. Good work, Porter. I feel like I'm missing a few bodies. Good work, Percussagant. Good work, Hint. Extra notoriety. And Integument surrendered. The mother pierces, the witch demands, the sister dissolves, and so my skin is thin as rain. I'll have to look up a phonetic dictionary for that word, but I'm sure most of you are familiar with me butchering some pronunciations. So this was a good place to end. We did finish our first sending. We've now completed all of the expeditions in the Shires. There is going to be a little bit of dancing that we need to do to keep the Percussagant around, but essentially, as long as I'm able to get the locations on the continent in a reasonably short period of time, I should be able to sort of keep my Hint and my Percussagant along for the expeditions that we want. We can largely do the same things that we did last time. We can now, as we've seen, right, the final location on a series of vaults is going to be the one that you can do the sending with. I'm not necessarily going to rush those particularly now because I have certain lore that I'm still looking to get. And again, I can try and upgrade it through the study verb, but generally I just like finding books, and finding books give me the opportunity to talk about a few more things. But all of that will be happening later, so in the next couple of episodes we will deal with our remaining little bits of dread. We'll try and repair our reputation as much as we can, we'll heal our sickness, we'll find some new vaults, and then probably for maybe Thursday's broadcast we'll probably start some of those expeditions. If not sooner, obviously. I'd like to get that done sooner rather than later. I know this has been a longer episode, but I try not to, I know sometimes I talk about stuff at the start, and I try not to let that eat too much into gameplay. But I also know some of you like the longer episodes, so, you know, I do the balance where I can. But I know shorter stuff generally tends to work a bit better on YouTube. So with that in mind, thank you for watching. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. You can hit the subscribe button down below, as well as hit the button, the little bell beside it, if you'd like to get notifications for when a new episode becomes available. And if you would like to help support the videos or otherwise express your appreciation, you can hit the like, and you can also leave a comment. Like I said, the comments definitely made my birthday much better than it would have otherwise been, and so I particularly appreciate that, and I'm sorry that I couldn't get back to them a little bit earlier, but I was definitely tied up, and I got to see some of you actually on the stream that I did for the birthday, so that was very pleasant. But yes, in addition to a chance to sort of reach out and hear from you, likes and comments do help the videos get noticed, and it's always a delight to find some more Cultist Simulator fans. I will be back on Wednesday with another episode of The Dancer. Please take care, and we'll see you in the next one.